What is up, everybody? Jester here, and today I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location on a project that I've been looking for about a year and a half. We finally found it about a week ago, and that's going to come out later this week, and I hope to get a lot of people involved. It should be a whole ton of fun. But today we're going to talk about something different, and that's going to be the World's Part 1 update. And I'm going to give you guys a counterpoint from everything else you're seeing from all the game journalists and YouTubers that are citing this as the best thing to happen in No Man's Sky in years. Now, while it's true that this is the highest player count in years, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best. Nor does getting something for free mean that it's good. And I think it's important to have counterpoints and different points of view in the community. So in saying that, I do want to mention anybody that comes in with hate in your comments, you're going to get ignored and or deleted. If you want to have an honest discussion, I'm more than happy to do that with everybody. But I'm going to lay this out for you guys today, why I think Hello Games falls short on this update, and they have been for years. There's a ton to cover. Let's get into it. As I mentioned, we are going to be focusing on the World's Part 1 update strictly today, but I think it's important to give you a little bit of history. And for that, I go to the SteamDB chart here. Now, I know there's a ton of console players. Even I found this game on console. I don't mean to diminish you, or handheld players for that matter, but I think since this game's been on Steam since the beginning, this is a pretty fair representation of playership and trends. And what I really want to focus on today are these spikes. And it has nothing to do with the content or the numbers. It's these spikes and just how short a term they are. It's usually a 2 to 3 week, maybe a month type of spike when you see them, and why we're not keeping the retention of the players in the game. I think you can even see this more clearly when you start to look at this at a 1 month view. It's pretty clear here that this game was struggling along at 6,100 players, and this is after they've already done one update this year, 2 updates actually. And then as soon as they release Worlds 1, it starts on the incline. Gets up to about 48,000 and then starts to dip again. Why? Because there was no expedition and there was no substance really to this update other than graphical updates. We're going to get into that. It's not until a week later when the expedition is actually released that it actually hits its peak of 55,000 players. And now you can see that it's already tailing off terribly. And there's a big reason for that, and nobody's mentioning this. That's what we're going to do in this video. For the sake of time, we're going to run down this list, but I'm going to do it in kind of a different way. We're not going to gloss over anything. We will cover it all. But Hello Games has got this long history of saying the same thing over and over again in these release logs. And it just kind of irritates me because it makes it look like there was so much more that was done. You know, they said we've made all brand new worlds, which broke a bunch of people's games, and we'll talk about that. But then they go on further to add extra blurbs that say, look, Sub-Zero worlds. Oh, look, desert planets. Oh, look, gamma planets. It's all part of the same thing. So I don't understand why they've got to make it look like they did so much more. So for the sake of time, we're going to kind of cover this in sections. And the first section we're going to go into is the Bug Hunt Expedition, the Liquidators, and how I feel like they've completely missed the mark and missed a major opportunity here to really get people engrossed in the gameplay. Expeditions have been around forever in No Man's Sky, and I think it was a great addition to the game. I want to be absolutely clear about that. But I feel like they're kind of missing the mark when it comes to the content inside of these expeditions. I don't necessarily think we need to restructure everything from this 5-phase setup. I think that's totally fine. I just wish there was more variety in the missions, and this one does offer a little bit stuff that you don't necessarily have to go do, but it's all just a simple progression. To me, it feels like a combination of weekend missions or Nexus missions that you go do, and then you complete a phase. And the way that these work is when you complete the phase, you get rewards for that phase, as well as individual rewards for each of the different things you complete. In this case, you see we get poster plans. In phase 2, you actually get a base part, which is the Bug Hunter trophy. It's not until phase 3 where you start to see the meat and potatoes of what they're trying to offer you, which is the chitin armor set. Now, this thing is absolutely cosmetic. It doesn't do anything else that something else doesn't do because everything is completely controlled by your technology modules. It's just something that looks a certain way, and I think it's ugly. I'm not going to hate on anybody, though, that likes it and thinks it's a great reward because that's you're completely entitled to that. There's nothing wrong with that. I just don't think it's really worth the damn. The problem comes in, though, in 2 places. Number one, you can't claim the final piece, which is the chitin flight pack, until you actually complete the Liquidators expedition. So most people would jump in here, especially newer players would jump in, and they would click on this having done all 5 phases and not worrying about what they put in on this one, which was a huge mistake in my opinion, and that is the optional missions. because if you clear out of this, you're no longer going to get these rewards, which are the liquidator plans. And I think that's what most people are going to be looking for out of this, is the new mech skin. And it's not just a skin, because in phase 5 you actually get the right arm, and that is the flamethrower, which is content. And it's just weird that they're hiding this, they're gating this behind an optional milestone. But it actually kind of gets worse from there, because I'm telling you, most people are going to click out of here, and then they're going to not have the money to get these things when it comes down to it, because they use Quicksilver to get them. Let me show you what I'm talking about. When you go over here to Johnny 5 at the Quicksilver vendor, you can clearly see that these liquidator parts are available as soon as they are unlocked. And that's because Hello Games has decided to time gate these things behind a community event, meaning we may or may not ever get these. I assume, since they put the upgrades and everything in, that they're going to tell us we got it regardless, but they're time gating actually getting this content. And this is the first part where I say they absolutely missed the mark here. Like, we're doing a bug hunt, right? Starship Trooper-esque. Everybody's made that comparison. So imagine building up through 4 phases and getting these parts, and then in the 5th phase, you have the flamethrower, and you're able to go out and start just demolishing these bugs with this thing. It was a terrible, terrible missed opportunity from them to really get engagement on this expedition. But the bigger problem here is that Quicksilver is the toughest of the currencies in the game to come by. It's a little bit easier now. When you complete expeditions, you get some Quicksilver, and you can always get Quicksilver from Nexus missions and weekend missions, but it is the toughest one to come by, and sometimes it takes people weeks in order to get 1,000 or 2,000 Quicksilver in order to buy these parts. And I guarantee you a lot of people have already clicked out of this thing and didn't realize that they were going to get it when it unlocked. So this is just keeping the expedition open at this point for no good reason. They could have done the exact same thing with the chitin set, and then we could have had a really good time in the actual expedition with that flamethrower, but they completely missed the mark here. That's one strike, if you ask me. Moving forward, we're going to talk about the Discovery renaming. Now, this is a big nothing burger to me. It's neat that you can name a bug whatever you want to once you discover it, but it's not going to be a driving force if I'm going to play No Man's Sky or not. It is a neat addition. I'm not going to hate on it necessarily, but it's just not all that much content. It's something that could have been done forever, and it could have been in passing instead of being the second main point when you come down from talking about your release here. From there, we're going to go into something we are going to spend a little more time on, and that's dramatic new worlds. Now, this basically broke everybody's game. It broke all the worlds in here, and this is the first part where we're not going to talk about each one individually. Just know that the desert planets have been revamped, the frost planets have been revamped. Basically, every type of planet has had a reskin, is basically what's going on here. And they've added some other stuff like floating islands, things like that. But the problem I have with this part is that they're not taking into consideration their players' time. People looked for weeks, for days, for hours, for months for the perfect world to call their home and live out their days playing No Man's Sky with this perfect base on this perfect planet. And then after they promised to not do a full galactic reset, and granted this isn't a full galactic reset, but they did go ahead and come back in and broke the game yet again. They put all these new particle effects and shit into the damn game, and in my opinion, it doesn't look half as good as it did. This is clearly testing for light, no fire. It is clearly them, hey, we need to be able to put this in for the engine for that game. Let's go ahead and put it in No Man's Sky. And I'm not going to hate on that because this is a good forum for it to do it. But I don't agree with them devaluing their player base's time by making these additions that they say are just better for the game when people spent days, weeks, months looking for these things. You go on Reddit and you look at a subreddit right now, people are going, how could they do this to us? And then you see so many responses, and it's not everybody, but you see a lot of responses going, suck it up, Buttercup, just rebuild it, we all have to. It's like, no, we should expect better as gamers. At least some kind of warning. It's not going to stop them from doing it, but say, hey, for the betterment of the game, we're going to be doing this. It's probably going to make your planets look different, but we just want you to be ready. No. Hello Games is better than that. They're just going to put the stuff out there. They're going to say, we're going to do it regardless of what the fuck our player base wants. And that's what they've done here. Does it look good? Sure. I think the color palettes actually look worse. But, you know, graphically, everything looks good. So then from here, I am going to kind of gloss over the graphical stuff. Scrolling on down, again, volumetric clouds. This is just another thing in the way when you're trying to land where it's going to come up and say landing area not clear. That's wonderful. Again, when was the last time you logged into a game simply for graphics? Covering the customizing of solar ships. This is kind of a nothing burger for me as well. The reason being is that we can only have so many ships, and they keep giving us ships as expedition rewards that are unique and they're one of a kind. so you're not going to get rid of those. So you really don't have a whole lot of option here when it comes down to it. Was it great they gave us shipbuilding? I think so. Some people would argue that, but I think it's cool that you can go in and do it. But why would I want to go in and customize one of each of my own ships when I would have to get rid of something that's unique and custom? If you're going to do stuff like this, give us more ship slots. That's pretty much the answer to that. Scrolling on down, detailed shadows. This is all engine improvements. High definition water. Look, man, it looks great, but that's about it. There's nothing more to it. It doesn't enhance the gameplay. Immersion, we can argue that. Sure, maybe a little bit for immersion, but when was the last time you logged in and said, I'm going to go stare at the water for 3 hours? Said no one ever. And that's the case here. What they're doing is testing the engine for light, no fire. I've made this argument a dozen times and everybody keeps blowing it off. I'm going to keep screaming it from the freaking hilltops until people start to realize that's what we're getting. We're not getting original No Man's Sky content. We are getting game testing for light, no fire without it actually going into open beta or closed beta. That's what we're fucking getting here. And does it look good? Yes. Does it add anything to the game other than immersion? No. Otherworldly life. As far as I can tell, it's really just the one. And once you've seen it, you've seen it. I actually have one on the planet that I was just on there a minute ago. But that's about it. The wind simulation we're going to cover down here in a second. Dynamic water. You can clearly see in this clip that there's no wind. And I think everybody knows that waves are driven by wind and tides and things like that. We're talking about a small lake here. There would never be a tidal wave like this in a real life situation. So this is kind of a big nothing burger from me as well. Is it a cool effect? Sure. What does it add to gameplay? Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And for no good reason too. Look at this thing boiling up to like a tidal wave. There's no wind. It's a small lake. It's a big nothing burger. We already covered the mech, and we're not going to cover these things because they just keep adding these blurbs over and over to make it look like so much more was done. Desert diversity, sky colors, I can argue, and you guys can argue back at me that I really believe that the color palettes are even harder to find the right ones now. Everybody comes into this game looking for a green grass, blue water, blue sky world because that's Earth-like. And now they've made it to where those are even more rare, because they do yellow skies, like pea yellow skies like this. My Animal Farm planet had this beautiful pink grass, blue skies, blue water. It is now a green grass, red sky, hellish landscape because of what they did with changing the worlds for the better. And it's something I'm going to have to rebuild on the system that we're going to talk about later this week. The insect armor set we've already covered. This is what it looks like. I don't think it looks very good. If you guys like it, by all means wear it. But these are the rewards. You can't even claim this reward and not have to spend Quicksilver, being the Kite and Flight pack. You can't even claim it until everybody does the optional missions. The engine enhancements, well, of course, man. You're putting in high def water. You're putting in some other stuff. There's got to be engine enhancements. The interaction labels, I didn't notice were even bad before, but apparently they are. The beetle diversity. Now, they're going to mention later that they put in the Broodmother as a fight you can go do, and you can get 4 new exoskeleton helmets from that. It is what it is. At least you're not fighting the same thing over and over again, at least the same looking thing, even though you're doing the same fight that with a good multi-tool takes about 20 seconds. So it really doesn't add much to gameplay, at least not over the long term. Continuing down, dramatic storms. This is where we're going to stop about this for a minute. Why would you say you've done so much good for these planets and made them all look prettier and then turn these weather effects up to like 5,000? I can't go 2 minutes on any world without some event happening, whether it's a storm or it's a meteor shower or it's a wind event or a lightning storm, and it just ruins the immersion of being on the planet to the point where you don't even want to be on the damn planet. So why put this in there and make it so prevalent? You know, it's cool that they're doing this and it's got good graphics, but again, it doesn't do anything for gameplay. As a matter of fact, it makes me not want to be on the planets that this is happening on. So I kind of feel this is, again, a big nothing burger when it comes down to it. It certainly doesn't enhance gameplay in any way. The walker battles. Now, this one I didn't exactly notice because, yeah, walker battles, I've done hundreds of these, if not thousands of these, because I pretty much know where to hit these things. But apparently on the HUD now, it kind of shows you where you're supposed to be hitting. And yeah, we'll kind of just move on from there. From there, we'll go ahead and scroll down to the deck section, and that's going to be, again, they're reiterating something they've already mentioned, which is the Kite and Flight pack. And again, I want to make sure that everybody watching this video knows, do not click out of the expedition just to get this, because it's going to cost you Quicksilver to get the other parts that I think are more desirable and that everybody would want. The next one up is the color variety on the water. I think this is actually worse than it was before, even though there's more colors. I mean, if red water is your thing, cool. If you want a lake that looks like it's full of pee, that's great for you as well. That's not for me, but you know, whatever. Strange nutrients. They introduced some new nutrient processor recipes with some of the new things they've got in here, but again, they tell you nothing about how to do any of it. There's no tutorial. There is no thing that says, hey, try this with this and see what happens. None of that. They just put them in there for the sake of putting them in there, and you go figure it the fuck out. That's Hello Games in a nutshell. I apologize if you guys see any jump cuts here. My computer, the Google tabs keep locking up on me, so we're going to try to do our best to get this done. Let's scroll on down here to the living buildings. Now, this is a new fauna that you can get, and the only thing I can really tell, and it's going to lock up again because you can see the video kind of pausing there. The only thing I can tell that these things actually do is when you feed them an ion battery, you get more than one chewy wire, which gives you a few nanites. Other than that, they're purely cosmetic. It doesn't really add anything to the gameplay. I guess you could find different varieties of these, but you know, it just kind of is what it is. I don't see any real need for it. If you guys want to make these your pets, apparently you can do so now. The aquatic landing jets, I think, is a cool addition, because for the longest time, you've had to find an island if you're going to do some type of water mission. This is done with, you go up and you get the blueprints for this, and then you put it into your ship, and you can land on water. I'm not going to complain about this one because it's not a bad addition, but there are a very limited number of water missions when it comes to No Man's Sky. Moving on to the Skylight base parts, or just base parts in general, I'm always going to be down for those. These do actually, because the build that I just made, these do actually let a lot more daytime light in to your base. And anybody that's ever built in this game knows the lighting sucks, man. It's always sucked. It doesn't project for crap. Like, it's literally got a 1 block radius that it'll project light. This does help during the day, not so much at night. But again, a decent addition, and I'm glad they put that in there. Atmospheric variety, this is basically more of the same thing where the storms and all that crap happen. The vile insect queens, this is something we've talked about already, the brood mother. It's a 20-second fight with a good multi-tool. If you think that's content, then I don't know what to do for you, because you're going to do it the amount of times it takes to get the different helmets, and then you're probably never going to do it again, unless you want to go out and get bugs in order to put them in a processor and find out what they do. Quality of life stuff, there in this section, I think it's kind of crap, because there are some quality of life upgrades that I want to talk about. Actually, let's just show them to you now. The space station interface has been completely revamped, and yet they have not said a single word. If you look at how quickly you can get into this thing now, I would be screaming this from the mountaintops. It is so much smoother getting in here and getting landed, even though they didn't fix to where you can just get priority if you don't have multiplayer turned on. Did you see how quick that was? There was no lag. There was none of that. This is a really good addition, and they're not even touting it as an addition. Another thing that's been brought in that has flown below the radar is the actual swimming mechanic in the game. Now, I still don't believe that you should actually get hurt when you fall into water like every other game. But notice here that no longer when you push forward on your controller are you being forced to the surface like you were before. You can actually now boost, and you stay on a pretty flat plane. This isn't normal. This isn't how this used to be. It used to force you up constantly, and you would break the surface, and it would tick everybody off. Why they're not covering this and saying, hey, we've done this, I don't know. But it's a change for the better. And that's just 2 examples of things that I've seen that they aren't really promoting. And I feel like they're just kind of missing the mark. Like, they don't even understand what their players want at this point. They're advertising things that nobody cares about and leaving the stuff that actually people would say, hey, that's cool, and leaving it completely off the radar. New gestures, whatever. Again, no addition to gameplay. Underwater bases. You could already do this if you just went to free placement. So I'm going to not even worry about this one. This is kind of a huge nothing to me. DLSS 3, look, it's the changing times. You're going to get better resolutions and stuff. NVIDIA needs to catch up, because I think that's part of my problem with my computer. They've added a Nexus mission for the Vile Brood, but again, once you've done this 4 times, or at least a number of times to get the drops that you want, you don't have to go do it again. There's no real reason to play it. Noxious Worlds, we've already talked about. You can also get these insect trophies as rewards for your expedition. So again, that covered in the expedition. This I haven't run into at all with these tendrils. We'll have to do some further work on that to figure out if that's even in the game or not. Radiated landscapes, the insectoid headwear, that's the drops you get from the brood mother. The flamethrower we covered, and they've hidden that behind the community expedition and time gated it. Burnt World, same thing. Keep talking about it. Night sky variety, okay, that's fine. You can see the other planets a little clearer now. The blossoming megaflora, this is clearly a Light No Fire asset. This is clearly from that game. They're really focusing on world generation, and this is clearly going to be something they implement going forward in another game. I hate it when they keep saying this is content for No Man's Sky, because it's not. It's actually them game testing for later. And I wish more people would come out and just say that's the freaking case, but we already know Hello Games won't do that. From there, it just goes down into the patch notes, and that's about it when it comes to this. So with all that being said, let's just get into our conclusion, because I've rambled on long enough here. But now, after going through everything and seeing it, it's pretty clear to see why this number is tailing off like it is after only about 3 weeks of this being released. It kind of doesn't stand to reason that if there was good content that was added in this that actually made people want to stick around and gave them things to do, people would already be bailing on this after 3 weeks. Are you starting to see the importance of this chart now? Now, even though I know that I'm not going to change the opinion of fanboys that go to their favorite YouTuber and their favorite YouTuber's telling them this is the greatest thing ever and therefore it can't be anything else, what I can do for the discerning gamer that actually expects more, I can maybe change your mind about this from all the other crap you see online that's not calling this for what it is. It is a graphical update with no real gameplay content added. So what? They added the Broodmother. It's literally like a 15 to 20 minute thing until you get all the drops, and then you never go do it again. This is why you see that number dropping as we speak. People are finishing the expedition. There's nothing new to do. We're going to go play other games. That is the legacy of No Man's Sky at this point. It is not that they have this giant comeback story. It is they're doing just enough to get the hype train going, and then they milk that as long as they possibly can. As long as they possibly can, which you can see in the Steam charts is not all that long. It's weeks, if maybe a month at tops, when they bring out something brand new that is supposed to be world-shattering. And you hear Sean Murray talk about this game and how that's their vision and this and that. And what they really need to be doing is listening to the community for what they want. Now, for a new player, absolutely, this game is amazing. And I envy anybody that's getting to experience this for the first time. There's going to be so much to do, so many things to explore, and it's going to be a wonderful experience. For a seasoned player that has everything done, they're not giving us anything. This is simply testing for Light No Fire. That's all that it is. Then they're calling it new content for No Man's Sky. They don't give a damn about No Man's Sky at this point. All they care about is being able to implement these things going forward into their next game. And for anybody that doesn't see that, I'm sorry that you're blind, but you're absolutely blind. And I'm not even calling Hello Games out for that, because it's their right to do so. They need to be able to implement this so that their next release isn't the disaster that this was when it came out. That they can actually fulfill the promises they make instead of chasing everybody away immediately and dropping a game that was absolute trash. Other than that, guys, I just hope you make up your own minds. Again, keep it civil in the comments, and we can have discussions on what you think. I've got no problem with differing opinions. I just think that it's really funny you're not getting differing opinions the style that I have from much of anybody else calling this what it is. Lackluster at the very best. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, like the video, subscribe to the channel, because we got more coming, including this base and a project that I've wanted to do for a very long time in No Man's Sky. Hopefully you guys will be into it, and I hope to see you in that video. But until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.